Hi there. Thank you for joining us here in our virtual clubhouse on Facebook. My name is Joanne Rome. I'm Director of Strategic Initiatives and Laugh Fest with Gilda's Club. And I'm so happy that we can come together in this way, even while we're physically distancing right now. And hopefully today you're going to learn some things, laugh a little bit, and we would love for you to comment, let us know you're here. And if you have questions as we go along today, please provide those as well. I'm so happy to be here with Jayson today. Dr. Jayson Dibble, PhD, an associate professor in the Department of Communication at Hope College. He does research and teaches courses on interpersonal communication, relationships, persuasion, and humor. He has authored or co-authored dozens of journal articles and book chapters. His research has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, I didn't know that, The Atlantic, Women's Health, Psychology Today. Just the list goes on and on of these incredible credentials. But my favorite thing about Jayson is that he has a very esteemed collection of air guitars that he maintains in his free time. Today, Jayson is going to unpack what science says about the connections between humor, laughter, and health. Like I said, we'll save a little time at the end for Q&A, so feel free to submit questions as we go along. Jayson, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm so excited. Wow, this is amazing. And thank you to all of you in video land. I wanted to get all, prettied up for the day, so I made sure to put cologne on for my video chat. So I'm really excited. I understand that when we talk about really important, big, deep questions about the universe like this, we typically turn these days to our elected politicians, but they were all busy right now solving the world's problems. So I am but a humble scientist, but I'm going to give you my take right now as best I can. So as Joanne said, I am Jayson Dibble. I teach 13th through 16th grade at Hope College, and that's in Holland. And I'm going to make our time as worthwhile as I know how to. So Hannah, I'm going to try and share my screen to show some slides and hope this works. Cross my fingers I didn't launch any nuclear weapons or anything. And are you seeing it, Joanne? Are you seeing some screen?
Yep, I sure am. You're all set. Yep.
Okay, good. Whew. Well, so this talk is humor, laughter, and well-being. What can the research tell us? And I'm going to try and give you the thumbnail sketch. If you have seen, I do give a version of this talk during Laugh Fest as part of the Laughter RX series. And so I'm going to try and give you the thumbnail sketch of that talk. If you've never been there before, and if you have been there before, well, then you're going to be our experts, and we're going to rely on you during the Q&A. So let's see, where are we going to go? Whoop. Okay, my slides are moving. Good. So what are we going to cover today with what little time we have? We're going to answer quickly, what is humor? We're going to talk a little bit about why should you bother even trying to be funny? And then, importantly, what can we say about the link between humor and your health? You hear a lot of this said in the culture, and so we're going to see what does the research actually allow us to say so that you can impress your friends next time you're on Jeopardy. Before we roll, I want to offer my disclaimer, though, which is always, this comes from the great Art Berger, who is a communication researcher, by the way. And he always says that dissecting humor is an interesting operation in which the patient usually dies. So that is, it's a lot funnier to just be humorous and experience humor than it is to talk about it, but I'm going to do my best anyway and try to keep it entertaining and lighthearted. So what are we talking about when we say what is humor? Well, humor is a complex experience. It's made up of a bunch of different components. And one of the major components is emotion. It's the feeling that you get when you find something funny, and we call that mirth. So mirth is this emotion of finding something funny. And then there's also your thoughts come along. So there's cognition or cognitive elements. And the thing about this is the things that you typically find funny is when you have some thoughts that suddenly don't line up together. So for example, you have this thought that dad is supposed to be in control and always composed, but then you see on Funniest Home Videos, Junior drills him in the beans with the baseball and he doubles over and everybody starts laughing because now suddenly dad is out of control. So and he's probably sore. And so you have these two thoughts that don't line up. There's this incongruity that contributes to things that we find funny. There's a behavioral component, right? You recognize this as smiles, laughter. And then the things that we typically find the funniest involve some element of surprise. So the joke was funny the first couple times you heard it. It wasn't funny the 100th time you heard it, because there's no surprise there anymore. And so that's what we're talking about when we say, what is humor? And it also helps you understand, if you understand what humor is, you can start to understand why you don't find certain things funny. Maybe the surprise is gone for you, or maybe there's some other aspect that's missing. So it can help us understand why certain people find things funny and others don't, just from understanding that humor is kind of a complex thing with a lot of different levers to push. Moving on, and I hope you appreciate the puns. I love puns, so I'm going to sprinkle a bunch of puns in here. I guess you know them nowadays as dad jokes, but before that, we call them puns, and I like puns. So here's the fun thing. Humor is very, very widespread, and it turns out that humans are not the only animals that laugh. Here is a picture of some chimpanzees, and you look at their faces, and you see they're got these kind of what resembles a smile on their face. I don't know that we want to go so far as to fully anthropomorphize them to say they're being human, but they do look like they're smiling. And those who study chimpanzees kind of treat it that way. And they call this their play face. And they do make sort of a panting sound when they're playing and roughhousing that sounds like laughter. And so what we think about with the chimpanzees is that this communicates that, hey, we're playing right now. We're goofing around. Yes, we're roughhousing so that we can kind of practice getting stronger, but I'm not your enemy. Don't be upset. Please know that we're just playing here, and don't throw your poop at me. So that's the chimpanzees. What else do we know about humor? It occurs in every known human culture. It's very, very widespread. We know that this is a really cool factoid. The sounds of human laughter are completely indistinguishable from one culture to the next. So just from listening to recordings of laughter, you can't tell where somebody's from. Laughter sounds the same, which is really, really great, because we might come from different cultures. We might speak different languages, but I love that laughter is laughter is laughter. It's a very germane, fundamental human experience, and it's hardwired into our species. And I love this. We also know that laughter develops before spoken language. So babies know how to laugh. Babies laugh before they can talk. And we also know, when you're speaking of kids that are born both blind and deaf can laugh, and laugh appropriately when other people would laugh. So this is what's wonderful about laughter, is that your body is born knowing how. You already know how to laugh. And whether you choose to use it or not later on in life, you were born with a funny bone. Okay, so we know a little bit about what humor is. And we also know then, even if we can be funny, why should we bother then? And it turns out that there are lots of benefits to humor. And one of them is humor puts you in a positive mood. So you are in a better mood when you feel mirthful. It does pick you up. You feel better. And also we know that putting you in a better mood helps to access your inner creativity. So you're more creative. You're also a better problem solver when you're in a better mood. And this is really important, especially in today's culture where we're dealing with so many unknowns like coronavirus and a pandemic, and how do we teach from home and learning and remote and everything. And there's often no script to what we're doing right now. And the only thing that's going to keep us on the track is our ability to laugh and our ability to experience humor and see the humor in the ridiculousness of what we're facing right now. It doesn't mean that there aren't serious things to face, but having a humorous perspective allows you to keep sort of a 10,000-foot view of the situation so that you can kind of stay ahead of the game and make the decisions that you want to make. And you're a better problem solver as a result. So that's really, really important. And here's another cool thing. Research tells us that even if you smile for just a few minutes, that can be enough to perk up your mood. there's a really clever series of experiments called on the facial feedback hypothesis. And what we do is we put people into an experiment where half of them have to hold a pen like this over on the left panel, where they hold a pen between their teeth, and that forces their musculature in their face into a frown. And on the other side, we have them hold the pen between just their front teeth themselves, and that forces them to pull back their lips a little bit and to resemble a smile. And so this is a great way in science where we can sort of trick people into frowning or smiling without telling them to smile or frown. We just tell them to hold the pencil a certain way, and it puts their face into a smile or a frown. Well, one of the things we know is that compared to the frown on the left, when you have people holding the pencil like they do on the right, and then read a series of funny jokes, they find the jokes even funnier than they would if they weren't holding the pencil that way. So we do see a link between what you put on your face and the way you come around and feel. So there is this it's all connected, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. We put it under the facial feedback hypothesis, but I love talking about it in terms of humor because if all else fails, if you can put a smile on your face, your body can start to come around and find things humorous and funnier, and it can help you perk up your mood a little bit, which is important. And then we also know that humor is inherently social. We like to laugh with others more than we like to laugh by ourselves. This is why it's so great if you get a chance to go to Laugh Fest, and we can come back. Hopefully we can bring Laugh Fest back. Go to a live comedy show. It's so much funnier to hear the comedian live than it is to watch them over Netflix, which is kind of what we're having to do right now, which is better than nothing, but it's so much better if you can do it in a room full of other people who are laughing along. We get off on the social nature of laughing with other people. And it's very, very contagious. So just hearing somebody laugh is enough to make you start laughing. So half the fun of laughter is sharing it. And this means then that humor has some pretty huge implications for helping us communicate with others. And what are some ways that humor then helps our communication? Well, one is it helps you take down conflicts. So when you use humor appropriately, and this is important, you don't want to use it aggressively, non-aggressive humor. Then the humor says, I accept you as a person. Even if we don't have the same point of view, I accept you as a person, so we don't have to make things nasty between us, which I think is super, super important, again, in today's world of uncertainty. Just being able to laugh and not take things too seriously helps us to realize that, hey, we're still human here, and we're going to still do our best with what we understand. Even though we might disagree at times, we don't have to make it nasty. And good-natured humor can help us do that. Studies show that even a simple, genuine smile is enough to help you build trust with other people. So pull out those smiles. Don't be afraid to use them. We need it right now. Humor also helps us build rapport. And if you can build rapport with other people, then it helps to build trust, so you can trust others. Humor kind of acts as sort of a duct tape that helps us kind of wrap around. Duct tape kind of fixes everything. Even when you have two parts that don't fix together, you can put duct tape around it. And that's kind of how humor works. When we don't know what to say in the weird spaces, when we don't know what to say in the gaps between, we're dealing with really a horrible pandemic. We're also dealing with trying to love our kids. How do you match all those things up? Sometimes there's going to be a gap, and there's no script for what you should say in that moment. And that's why we're hardwired with humor, to kind of fill that gap and help us build trust even amid the uncertainty and the craziness. So, okay, I think I'm doing good on time. If you're keeping score so far, you'll see one, that we're hardwired to experience humor. You'll see that humor is good for strengthening your relationships, helps us deal with conflict, and it helps us bond with others. So now, here's the big kicker. Research also suggests that humor is probably good for your health. And this idea has been around for a long time. If you look in the Christian Bible, you'll see in the book of Proverbs that a cheerful heart is good medicine. So people for a very, very long time have recognized that there's something about humor that is good for us. So to take it more recently, you go to Groucho Marx, and he famously said that a clown is like an aspirin, only he works twice as fast. So some of the examples that you hear from in the literature, or that you hear of in the culture, is one of the famous ones is Norman Cousins. He developed a very, very debilitating spinal disease that was incredibly painful, and nothing really seemed to work. And actually his medical team didn't really give him very long to live. And one of the things he took into his own hands was, turns out he was a medical researcher, and he believed in the power of positive thinking. So one of the things that he was doing for himself, because he figured, hey, it couldn't hurt, was he would expose himself to humorous shows. So he watched a lot of Candid Camera, the kind of stuff that really would give you good belly laughs. And one of the things he discovered as a result of this was that 10 minutes of genuine belly laughter gave him an anesthetic effect, and it would give him at least 2 hours of pain-free sleep. Now, I guess, you might think, well, only 2 hours, but if you're living with the kind of pain that Norman Cousins was living with, 2 hours would have been a godsend in terms of relief. And he was able to get it from 10 minutes of laughter, he claimed. So there does seem to be some link, at least in the culture and people's minds, between humor and our health. What else can we say? Well, there might be at least 3 other pathways where humor might work its effects on our health. One is by putting us into a positive emotional state, which we already kind of talked about a little bit earlier. Another one is humor allows us to react differently to stressors. And so we don't see the mean and nasty things quite as mean and nasty, or we don't see them as meaner and nastier than they have to be. So it helps us keep a perspective on things. And then finally, one of the ways that humor might work on our health is by increasing our social support. So we're drawn to people that are funny. When we're funny, people are drawn to us. And there's already a huge pile of studies that shows that you live longer and you have happier quality of life when you're surrounded by a collection of warm and nurturing and loving relationships. So relationships definitely promote health, and humor helps promote those relationships. So there's at least 3 ways where humor might work on our health. What else can we tell you? This is a great story about an elderly woman, and it was written by a colleague in my field. She moonlights, in addition to her professor work, she moonlights as a caretaker for this elderly woman. And this elderly woman suffers from a heart condition where she would constantly kind of go into what they call it atrial fibrillation, where her heart wouldn't follow a proper rhythm, and she would feel really, really sick. Well, she was having one of these episodes, and they took her into the emergency room, put her in the hospital. And while she's in the hospital, the doctors are trying everything to try and get her back to a normal heart rhythm, and nothing seems to be working. Well, one of the things, it turns out that the caretaker and this woman used to bond over Wheel of Fortune. They loved watching Wheel of Fortune together. And what ended up happening was they were watching an episode of Wheel of Fortune. She was in her AFib state, feeling dumpy, kind of got the TV on, watching Wheel of Fortune. And then all of a sudden, it was one of those episodes where the contestants botched the puzzle, where I don't know if you've come across these before, where they get it wrong and everybody knows it's completely wrong. And so what ended up happening was they screwed up the puzzle, and all of a sudden the woman and her caretaker just burst into laughter because it was just such a funny situation. And so what ended up happening was, as soon as she started laughing, then the heart monitor started going beep, 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 doing like it was supposed to. And that was enough to take her out of her AFib. And the colleague of mine felt so strongly about this connection that she ended up writing about this and getting this story published in one of our communication journals. So there's lots of these kinds of anecdotal pieces of evidence. What else can the science tell us? And making sure I'm staying on time here. Humor can help us manage our pain. This seems to be true. The best guesses we have right now say that it does seem to be more of a distraction effect, because the humor kind of takes your mind off of feeling the pain. As a result, you say you feel less pain. So we don't fully understand the pathway here, but there does seem to be a reliable link between funny and pain. And here's the thing. It's not just about cracking jokes, but the idea is you really need to focus on promoting your own sense of mirth from the inside. So you get the better benefits when it comes to pain if you generate your own humor rather than just passively taking it in. So if you can somehow find ways to be involved in the funny yourself without just watching the funny, that actually makes it the effects more pronounced when it comes to pain. The other thing you want to do is make sure you find humor that fits your preferences. So we know that when people were allowed to choose their own funny movie, for example, they got more pain benefits than the people who were just forced to watch somebody else's choice of funny movie. So it's one, you got to generate the humor yourself if you can, and you want to try and find humor that fits your own style and your own preferences. Humor doesn't seem to be one size fits all, in other words. You got to find your kind of funny. What else can we say? Blood pressure. There does seem to be some effects on blood pressure, but there's a caveat here. And the research says that the most pronounced effects come if you are a woman. And it's not necessarily that the sexes are hardwired to receive humor differently, but we do socialize our men or our boys when they become men to use humor differently. Men on average are more aggressive with their humor. And they kind of take cheap shots with their humor at other people's expense. Whereas women are socialized to be more nurturant with their humor. So the idea is, if you want to get these benefits on your blood pressure, you really need to learn how to laugh like a girl, which is actually what we should be teaching people, because be more nurturant with your humor. And in reality, it should have nothing to do with whether you're a male or a female. It should have everything to do with whether you're an aggressive person or whether you're being more nurturant. And what I'm here to say is, if you want the benefits in terms of your blood pressure, you need to be less aggressive. So that's important. What else can we say? We know that researchers in Iran found that laughter yoga, which is something that Gilda's Club promotes, helped Parkinson's patients to feel less stressed out, helped them feel like they got better sleep. There's also another study that talks about the link between humor and stress. And they're trying to use this in the idea of preventing emotional overeating. So we know that part of the reason people overeat is when they're stressed out. They're stress eaters. Well, we haven't really tested this out yet, but one of the theoretical uses for humor then is to try and disrupt this cycle of being stressed out and eating, because if humor can help us manage our stress, then maybe we'll be less likely to eat in harmful ways. So this might promote health and prevent obesity and those types of things. And I think I'm going to move just a little bit further here ahead, which is one of the things that we know is that people who laugh just say they feel healthier. And we think there's some good benefits in that. So what kind of stuff else can we talk about? There was a famous comedian / juggler who actually came to Laugh Fest. His name was Scott Burton. Unfortunately, his journey with cancer ended with him leaving us all too soon. But one of the things that he wrote about during his journey with cancer was the role of humor. And what he says is that the other reactions, anger, depression, suppression, denial, it took a little piece of me with them. Each made me a little less human, yet laughter made me more open to ideas, more inviting to others, and even a little bit stronger inside. And it proved to me that even as my body was devastated and my spirit challenged, I was still a vital human. So this is a big deal. At times, humor might not work as potent as chemicals. It might not work the same way on everybody, but it is free and it's widely available. It spans all known human cultures. It comes without prescription or red tape. Babies can do it. Our elders can do it. Blind people and sighted people can do it. And in a calculus like that, maybe humor and laughter really are good medicine. And maybe you've heard of Patch Adams. He's famous for saying this. And maybe he wasn't so far off when he says, if you treat a disease, you win sometimes and you lose sometimes. But if you treat the person, you'll win every time, no matter the outcome. So because humor and laughter cut across so much of our daily lives, I think it's safe to say that humor and laughing does help us to treat the whole person. So with that, an active sense of humor may or may not add years to your life per se, but the research is clear. It will definitely add life to your years. So I'm going to throw it back to Joanne, and thank you all for your attention, T. Hank style.
Thank you, Jayson. Love that. Welcome questions on Jayson's presentation, and we have a couple here to kind of start the conversation, but throw anything out there that you'd like, no holds barred. You touched on children, and as the mom of a 3-year-old, I can attest that kids laugh all the time, right? Way more than we do as adults, I feel like. Why do we laugh less the older that we get? Is that a thing, and why?
Well, I think it's because we start being adults and we start taking life too seriously, and we start to, and I'm not saying there aren't serious things in the world, there are, but not everything is a 5-alarm emergency. And what happens is when you start thinking about things as over serious, that kind of hijacks your mind, and you start to realize, you start to think that I can't go back the other way. And it's really not that way. Not everything has to be a 5-alarm emergency. And so I think one of the things we do is we get in our own ways. And we should remember our kids. And that's what's great, is if you have kids in your life, to remind you of how kids laugh. And that's how we should have been doing it all the rest of our lives as well.
That's a really good reminder, especially right now when you might be with them all the time.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes they make you laugh, and sometimes they make
even when you want to.
All good. I don't know if this has ever happened to you or anybody listening, but sometimes we catch ourselves laughing at inappropriate times, like maybe times when society tells us we're supposed to be really serious. And I think even for our members at Gilda's Club who are living with cancer or living with grief, there are funny things that happen along the way for them. And it's sort of an awkward interaction, whether it's them or others around them finding humor in that. And there's some sensitivity to it. Is there something wrong with us if we laugh about serious things at inappropriate times? Why does it happen?
Absolutely not. No. And in fact, it's your body doing what your body is designed to do. Now, we're not talking about malicious humor, right? Everybody kind of, you can tell when someone's taking a cheap shot. In fact, I don't even really call that as humor, right? Now you're just being cheap and you're being mean. And so we're not talking about mean-spirited jokes or things like that. But yeah, you always hear the story about there's a funeral and somebody just busts out laughing and everyone's going, oh, and you see all the pearl clutching and everything, like, you're not supposed to laugh at a funeral. Well, where was that written down anywhere? I want everybody laughing at my funeral. I want you to get the funniest people you can to come in and laugh, because that's how I want to be remembered. I want you to laugh at me. I want you to laugh at all the things I screwed up. I want you to laugh at the moments where we witness something funny together, because that reminds me that we're social people, that we need each other. And yeah, I mean, funny things happen, and that's part of, remember, that's part of what humor is it's the unexpected. There's an element of surprise. And so you don't always control when the funny is going to come up. Rather, the funny is your body's natural response to unexpected things. And funerals are full of unexpected things. The pandemic is full of unexpected things. A cancer diagnosis is massively unexpected in many cases. And your body, you are equipped with this sense of laughter and humor in order to deal with the weird, to deal with the things that we don't understand yet. It gives you a way that says, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what I'm dealing with exactly, but this laughter says that I'm still on your team and I still care about you. And again, it's another one of those things where I think we got to get out of the way and stop being so stuck up about stuff and recognize that your body wants to do this. Sure. Celebrate it.
A lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned the pandemic. Obviously, we're in a really unique time right now. Many of us are at home most of the time. We're all navigating this pandemic. Some folks are navigating cancer, grief, or many other things in their lives. Yeah. I love
We're wearing our masks.
My default when I was getting ready for this today was to put a mask on. I was like, wait, I
Oh,
don't need to do that.
no, I did.
Oh,
Yeah,
good
and
job.
this helps my hearing impaired students because they need to be able to see my mouth when I'm talking. So this way, you're good.
So when we're stuck at home and we're navigating this tough stuff, whether it's pandemic, other things, combination thereof, and if humor is a tool to help us navigate those tough times, what can we do? What can people do at home to experience some humor and use that tool?
Well, the easiest thing is just to go with the humor that already presents itself in your life. If you do have kids at home, they're just naturally doing goofy things because they don't, well, one, they don't know what you know. And so they're going to make mistakes because that's how they learn. And that's going to be funny. And two, nobody's gotten in their face to show them why we can't laugh at the world. And so they're going to do it. If you've got people around, just take in the things that I think nature presents plenty of funny things for us. And one easy way to get started is just to let yourself laugh at it. Allow yourself to feel what your body's already doing and just go ahead and let it out if you want to. If that's not enough, then yeah, of course you can go seek comedy and you can go seek funny TV shows or maybe spend some time with somebody and have a conversation with a friend. Maybe reminisce about a time that was funny that you experienced together, because there's also value in the nostalgia. And one of the things that we're dealing with right now is a massive nationwide level of grief because we're grieving the life that we had before March. And we don't want to accept that. We keep saying we want to get back to that, but that may not happen. And we don't know what to do with that. But the life is going on and life is still presenting funny, weird, goofy things. And so you can hook into that. You don't have to tell jokes. I get a lot of people that'll say things like, oh, I'm not a good joke teller, so I can't be funny, which is lucky for you. It's not true. You were born able to laugh. So therefore, by definition, you can be funny. And also most of your daily humor, only about 11% of it comes from canned jokes anyway. The rest of it just comes from the everyday, mundane, goofy stuff that life presents you. So if you're not a joke teller, don't worry. Most humor doesn't come in the form of jokes.
That's good to know too. I'm not funny intentionally. So I'm glad that I don't have to be in order to provide that social support for others and to, experience that, that mirth too.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a working comedian in order to get other people to laugh. If you start to laugh because you think something's funny and I see you start laughing, like just now, you were starting to laugh when you were making that last sentence and I started to crack up a little bit because laughter is contagious. And all you have to do is start laughing or see somebody start laughing and you'll start laughing. So it's really, really, really easy to experience humor if we get out of the way.
Well, and it creates that sense of community, right? And we talk about that all the time at Gilda's Club, where obviously there's a full range of emotions that are showcased in our work at Gilda's with our members. But laughter is one of the most frequently experienced emotions at Gilda's Club. And I think that sense of community that it creates with people is really important. And it's the same thing as you mentioned when you go to a comedy club and people are laughing all around you. It's that shared experience that helps normalize it, right?
If you had to make a list of the favorite people in your life, my guess is, and if you separated those people into two columns, there'd be more people in the funny side than the not funny side.
Maybe I'll have to make
We're
that.
naturally drawn to people who we laugh with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we think they're comedians, but more of those people, your strongest relationships, right? My best friend in the whole world, his name's Michael Patrick Sadrovich III. He lives over in Oxford and I don't get to see him as often as I do, but hi, Mike, if you're watching. We just have fun goofing around, riffing on stupid stuff. Anybody outside watching us would have no idea what we're talking about, but that doesn't matter because we're laughing and that helps us connect with each other. That helps us to forge that bond.
Sure. Well, I welcome people that are watching. If you have any final questions as we wrap up, please go ahead and put those in the chat. We're monitoring that. Or if you think about something after the fact, or if you're watching this later on Facebook or otherwise, please submit your question. I know how to get a hold of Jayson. We can get those answers and keep those coming for you, because it's a really interesting conversation with a lot to digest here. So Jayson, I want to thank you so much for sharing your time and wisdom with us today. I've heard you talk on this subject before, but there were some things that I didn't know today. So I really appreciated being a part of this with you. And again, you know, we hope that people listening today learned something new too, and that you took something away that perhaps you didn't think about before as we navigate these tough times together. So thank you so much, Jayson.
I just wanted to say also, I did honor my end of the deal here.
I
am wearing
know.
my shirt, so it's there.
Yeah.
No, support Gilda's, support Laugh Fest. It's wonderful work. It's an amazing mission, and we're really, really, really grateful that you took the time. So thank you, Joanne. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Gilda's Club Grand Rapids continues to have a full virtual program that's available for our members. We've just launched family support groups on Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m., including children ages 5 to 13 with their adults. You can come together to learn, share, and laugh with us. If you've missed any of our other Facebook Live events, don't worry. They're recorded and posted on the bottom of our calendar on our website, can be accessed at any time. We'd love for you to check those out. And we're also welcoming new members, even though we're virtual right now. If you're interested in learning more about our support groups in cancer and grief at Gilda's Club, please contact us at 453-8300 or at gildasclubgr.org. Thanks very much. Have a great day.